Welcome back to Broncos Country Tonight, joined by Hall of Famer Steve Atwater. Steve, how are you?
Hey, doing great. How you guys doing?
We're doing great. Pat Shurmur spoke with the media on Thursday, had a chance to hear some of his comments since the last time we spoke with him was when he came to Denver. And one of the things that he pointed out I thought was kind of interesting was about the running backs. And he got into how it won't be a hot hand approach, which is what I think we all speculated. He said it's going to be more of utilizing their skill sets to the best of their ability, how to optimize the offense. So first of all, Steve, I'll come to you on this. What does that look like to you? If you're optimizing the offense with their skill sets, what does that look like?
Well, I mean, it kind of sounds to me like it's not going to be any running back by committee. The best player is going to win the position, and he's going to get the majority of the carries. That's what it sounds like to me. And I think that they're going to just, when they say work on the skill sets, I'm pretty sure they're talking about catching the ball out of the backfield, because they got both of the guys that are really good runners already in between the tackles and around the edge. So that's really the only area where I can see that they would just need to tighten up and make sure that they're on the same page with Drew Locke and the rest of the offense. So yeah, it's going to be interesting though, because if he's saying they're not really doing the hot hand approach, not doing the running back by committee, then hey, that means that somebody's going to be the starter, somebody's going to be backing up. And
is that kind of how you read those comments, Ben?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I felt more like it was a situational football kind of answer is what it felt like to me. Melvin Gordon, obviously one of the top guys in short yardage and goal line situations in the NFL the last couple of years. Broncos have been a bottom five offense over the last couple of years in short yardage, goal-to-go type situations. And I feel Melvin Gordon's probably going to be back there if they're throwing. If it's going to be pass pro, if you're going to have your back in pass pro, I think Melvin Gordon's more likely to be the pass blocking back than Phil Lindsey. All due respect to Phil Lindsey, I've watched him get bowled over a couple of times. He's just he's a smaller fellow when it comes to doing that, and that's the one area of his game I don't think you can count on. Now, Pat Shurmur has been a big fan of running those gun two-back sets where he runs with two halfbacks, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of that kind of stuff too, where you've got both Phil Lindsey and Melvin Gordon in the same backfield at the same time.
Yeah, and that was actually my next question here, Steve, because that is something he pointed out, is that there actually are going to be opportunities for both guys to see the field. What does that look like for you?
Oh, man, I can imagine sometimes it'll be, 5 receivers out in routes with both backs being out in routes as well. And, we're going to have to have the protection from the line of scrimmage, because when both backs are out in pass routes, if you have a 5 or 6 man rush, it can be problems for the offensive line. But yeah, I see. I can see that happening. Again, he's going to work on both of those guys being confident enough running the routes and then catching the ball and securing it and turning upfield with it. And we'll see who comes out of at the end of the season has the most catches out of the backfield.
Ben, Coach Shurmur said that when he watched last year's offense, there were actually some things tactically he actually liked about the offense and he might even utilize in this season. So what does that mean to you as far as what you think this offense is going to look like? What were some things from last year's offense that you did like you'd like to continue through?
Well, I thought they used that Texas concept real well, getting the running back out of the backfield on that angle route. I thought you could incorporate that into what Pat Shurmur does. That's not typically something that he utilizes. I think there's some other route combinations in there that you're probably going to see. The West Coast staples. I mean, both these offenses, Rich Gangarello, Pat Shurmur, they're both West Coast variant offenses. They just use some of the concepts a little bit differently. Some of the blocking's a little bit different, and Pat Shurmur's a little more aggressive down the field. So. I think they'll keep it the throws to the back. You might see Royce Freeman involved in that kind of aspect if he can make this roster. I think you're going to see some of the 2 tight end stuff. Pat Shurmur likes to run that, so I think you'll see some of that stuff as well.
Steve, is this a good way to kind of smooth things out for a young offense when you're installing a new scheme?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I would imagine the verbiage would be quite a bit different than it was with the new offensive coordinator. But, yeah, keeping some of the concepts the same definitely would make things easier for the guys that are here, and then they'll be able to help out with the new guys when they come in to be able to explain kind of ins and outs of how they're supposed to do things. So, yeah, that's going to be nice.
Last thing here, I want to talk a little about Drew Locke. He said that quarterbacks in the league are ultimately judged on their ability to help their team win. Makes a lot of sense, right? And, of course, for Drew Locke, that's a good first impression at 4-1. Do we think that's a fair way, Ben, to judge quarterbacks? I know we've also talked about in the past how quarterback wins is a bit of a flawed stat.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can go back and look at, Broncos history. You could say Tim Tebow had a bunch of wins, but the reality is you had a defense and a kicking game. That kind of carried them some wins. Wins are kind of a nebulous statistic, but if that quarterback is elevating the talent around him and putting you in a position to put points on the board, well, then you certainly can't hold it against him. And I think that's what you need to be judged on, not necessarily who got the W, because, Trevor Siemian won 9 games in a season, and I'm not exactly sitting out here calling him a winner either.
Steve, you feel the same way?
Yeah, well, I do feel like that's the way that people judge you across the league. They look at a team and see if they won a lot of games. Normally, they have a person who can play quarterback well, and certainly quarterbacks aren't judged solely on that. They got to go out and play well, and more than anything, I think they got to earn the respect of their teammates by being leaders in the huddle and knowing exactly what they have to do. And now there may be some problems with actually doing it, actually throwing an accurate pass, but make sure that he's throwing it to the right person and making the right reads on the defenses is super important for the guys in the room to see that he's doing right.